not from the tax-supported side, but from the Conservation Authority's revenue generation side, into our parks and facilities. With close to 1 million visitors in a growing, increasingly urbanized area, access to these green spaces and these cultural and environmental education opportunities is more important today than it ever was. We've expanded and added a new longhouse at Crawford Lake, and I do encourage you to visit that. We've just opened new raptor enclosures at Mountsburg, and we now have more injured birds of prey housed there than we've ever had. We also, just this fall, inaugurated a new barn at Mountsburg. It's a play facility. It's also a better home for the horses that we have at Mountsburg, and it continues to be one of the premier destinations for young families. All of these three projects were built by our staff and financed by the Conservation Authority with some grants. It's not just things on the cool side. We have a huge focus on our operational capacity and on our risk management and visitor impact on the environment, and so we continue to invest in our operational capacities as well. In terms of our challenges, I think these images speak for themselves. We've got a lot that we need to figure out and improve, and maybe some things will take priority over others. But this is what the rental facility looks like. Today, for Ontario's fourth busiest ski operation, it's just not acceptable. So we have an ambitious plan to invest in these facilities. And moving over to the infrastructure capital asset management plan, we're going to prioritize once we do our plan to focus funds in the areas that have the biggest return or the biggest need right now. This is Kelso Dam, as I mentioned. Conservation authorities, including mine, also own and operate lots of really old infrastructure to do with flood control and operations, and a lot of that is in need of repair and upkeep and replacement and also improvement. A lot of these things were done in the 60s and 70s when environmental management was done maybe slightly differently than it would be today. We're no different. We continue to upgrade our channels. And lastly, you have copies of this. The Conservation Authority is going through a change, a metamorphosis, a transformation. We're well on our way. We issued our first draft, the strategic plan. It's under consultation now, and we'll be taking it back to our board. It clearly lays out some service delivery targets, and those are the things we're going to get right before we get anything else right, and that's delivering our products and services well within time to a high standard and also within municipal guidelines for operating budgets. So I do invite you to excuse me, to go through our strategic plan. And if you have any questions, please contact me, or you can all direct your questions to Councillor McFadden, who's on our board and does a fantastic job of driving the organization forward. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much. That's a good intro because I have Councillor McFadden on the list here. Councillor McFadden.
Thank you, Chair Dale. Thank you both for coming today. And I find it really appropriate that the name of the strategic plan is Metamorphosis, because since you've taken over as the CAO of Halton Conservation, I have seen that. I have seen a real change in attitude, morale, actually having a strategic plan. They've never had one before that worked. And we don't have a large budget that we're asking for from Peel, but certainly the work that they do along the Ninth Line corridor is going to be imperative that we do it right. And I appreciate all the work that the Conservation Authority has been doing to make sure that Park 459 and the work along the floodplain is looked after properly. So thank you on behalf of myself and the other members of the residents of Mississauga.
Thank you, Councillor. Checks in the mail.
Thank you. Mayor Thompson.
Yes, conservation authorities have gone through a lot of changes in the last 20 years, but attitude towards the public has been a real key factor. And, at one point it was us versus them. It's the taxpayer or the landowner that pays the taxes towards conservation. I've seen this with CVC do a 180, and it's good to see you have done the same yourself. And I've heard from the landowners as well as my political counterparts on the good things that Halton Conservation are doing, and kudos to you. I was glad to see when you're going through it, talking about collaboration and partnerships. That's key. We're all in this together. You're the experts, but you need the partnerships and the collaboration of the community to get behind you, especially with the landowners. Your attitude is the right one, and kudos to you in getting that turned around. And I got to tell you, the positive response I've heard in the last couple of weeks working with my counterparts, that's a positive one. So I just want to echo, good job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both for your presentation today. And I have a motion moved by Councillor McFadden, seconded by Mayor Thompson, receipt of the deputation. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thanks very much. Moves us to the Credit Valley Conservation Authority, presentation by Deborah Martin Downs, Chief Administrative Officer. And Jeff Payne, Director of Corporate Services. Welcome back, Jeff. Please proceed. Thanks.
Well, there we are. Good afternoon, Chair Dale and members of council, and thank you. It's always good to be back in front of you as I'm joined by my wingman, Jeff Payne, today, and we do have a few supporters in the audience as well. Maybe if there's some tough questions, we need to draw them in. So I'm just going to talk about three main things today. I want to take a few minutes to tell you about some of our accomplishments over 2016 and good news stories, and that adds to what we talked to you about in June when we were here. And then I'm going to walk you through the budget, and of course I want to talk to you about some of the underfunded pressures that we will be experiencing going forward. So first, start with some good news. This summer, we celebrated 10 years of our Conservation Youth Corps program. Ray Hurst, who the former CAO of Credit Valley, it was her brainchild, and she was able to join us for the celebration along with Councillor Starr and Roz as well on a gorgeous day down the waterfront. The program has three components. The first is a summer week in the field where students use their volunteer hours, get their volunteer credits to graduate high school, and they work in the field with our staff to do a variety of environmental projects like habitat rehabilitation, invasive species removal, planting trees, etc. Then there's a branch out program, and that brings the program into high schools who then join us in the spring and the fall to do planting or invasive species removal or engage in a variety of other environmental education activities. And then we have a frontline program, which is a youth leadership program targeted to the CYC participants, and they act as a liaison between CBC and their high school or their community, and they teach their peers about local environmental issues. So in 2016, we saw just shy of 2,000 youth volunteers in this program, in all the programs combined. And last year, the program was awarded the Lieutenant Governor's Ontario Heritage Award for Youth Achievement. So it's been tremendously successful, and it's one of our flagship programs. I want to introduce you to one of our participants, Karat Dar. She was a CYC volunteer for 3 summers, and this summer we were able to hire her to be a CYC Youth Program Assistant with funds we raised through our Be a Conservation Hero campaign that we held last winter, just actually the post-Black Friday giving program where Pat Mullen was recognized for her long-term contributions to CBC. So Karat credits the CYC program for helping her discover her passion for the environment, which, along with some good math grades, I assume, has led her to pursue some environmental engineering courses this season. So Karat is one of 2,100 youth volunteers since this program began, and when we add the branch out numbers, we've had a total of over 15,000 youth through this program to date. So just imagine what an opportunity this is for youth when they can help them discover their interests, and for some become youth employment opportunities as well. And many of the youth we put through this program are new Canadians, and that's especially heartwarming. The children, the young people that came down to the Governor General's award, Lieutenant Governor, I keep elevating her to the Governor General, to come down to the awards, were all new Canadians, and that was so heartwarming to see those kids being so engaged in the environment. So we are creating a generation of environmental advocates, one student at a time here. We're also actively involved in the watershed in terms of environmental restoration and outreach, and including invasive species removal, and of course community tree plantings and workshops and cost sharing of best management practices on the ground. This year our forestry operation planted over 22,000 trees. Our countryside stewardship program sees a growing interest by the landowners in dealing with invasive species on their properties. 2016 was a banner year for our Peel Rural Water Quality Program. Normally, we have about 6 to 7 applicants a year. This year, we had 14. We did 19 projects when normally we do about 12. We allocated $124,000 in funding, which leveraged $250,000 worth of activity on the ground. And our best year last year was $116,000 on the ground. So it's tremendous uptake of those programs. CBC also conducts a lot of urban outreach programs, which support municipal emphasis on lot-level stormwater management, and especially with the Mississauga stormwater charge, we're seeing an uptake in program requirements through our greening corporate grounds. So a lot of property managers are now coming to us and saying, hey, we need help to make sure we can deal with our stormwater. And we introduced a new residential program called Rainscaping. So I want to introduce you to Pat Hertzberg and her husband Steve, and they moved from Mississauga to their 26-acre property in Caledon 3 years ago. They were drawn to the countryside so that they could be up close and personal with nature and wildlife. As long-term stewards of the environment, the Hertzbergs are taking pride in caring for the land and water there, and so they're working with CBC to manage and enhance the natural features on their property. They have planted 1.5 acres with native trees and shrubs with a grant from the CBC Landowner Fund. They've completed a land and water workshop and an action plan for their property, and they're going to undertake, with our forestry experts, a managed forest tax incentive program to create a forest management plan. So we are changing the landscape of the credit, one landowner at a time as well. So we are pleased to launch our Sustainable Neighborhood Retrofit Action Plan following the model that TRCA had developed several years ago, and we started that in the Fletchers Creek neighborhood in Brampton this year. So we'll be completing a sustainability framework by the end of 2016 that identifies sustainability goals, objectives, and renewal opportunities for the neighborhood. In 2017, we're going to move into the development of an action plan. And before that's finished, we hope to be working with Brampton to implement a few demonstration projects in the area with funding from the Federal Infrastructure Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. Uh-oh, that's not good. At long last, we finally finished the reconstruction of the Bell Fountain Terrace, and we celebrated that with a board meeting on a gorgeous fall day just a month or so ago. You've heard me speak about this before, and will recall that the original century-old retaining wall began showing signs of cracking, and we had to close it off to the public, and eventually it collapsed in 2015, the day we awarded the contract to rebuild it. Like all good things, old things, the construction took longer than expected, and the restoration was more complicated once we started to peel back the layers. But it's now finished, and it's ready to host weddings or music, or just let people stand and safely look over the vista of the West Credit River. Staff continue to identify and secure land in the watershed, and we added 17 hectares of land in Peel in 2016 so far. We're not finished the year yet. The most notable parcel was the 8.3 hectares of OPG lands. It's making Councillor Tovey smile. At the first parcel of the Lakeview Waterfront Connection project. We have about 29 more hectares that we hope will come into our ownership by the end of the year. We've got the water lot purchased, the check's been sent, the permit has been received from the province to proceed with the project, so we're just waiting for the transfer of lands. So with this acquisition and without the 29 hectares, we now have 60 properties with about a little over 2,800 hectares of land under our ownership. On September 24th, we held a ground-making kickoff for Lakeview Waterfront Connection, and just last Friday, the first loads of fill went into the lake. I wanted to get Councillor Tovey's tweeted picture up here, but the presentation went in far too early for that. So with TRCA, we are really excited to be building this new park, and that will create 26 hectares of conservation land and 1.7 kilometers of new healthy shoreline in the heart of Mississauga. In time, the birds are going to thank us, the fish will thank us, and we hope a few turtles too along that shoreline. Peel has supported the development of the real-time water quantity monitoring network, and as we mentioned in June, water levels, precipitation, and climate data is now available for municipalities and the public to view online. This allows us to immediately see what's happening with rainfall and in-stream flows to be much more effective in flood response and allow others to determine what their risk might be. With that program, we also developed a system of real-time water quality gauges to better track a few key parameters and provide earlier reports on spills, nutrient levels, algal blooms, salt, and E. coli, all which have impacts on drinking water or recreational uses. It came in very handy this season with in the upper watershed where Orangeville was having problems with their sewage treatment plant, and we were able to see what was happening in real time. As you know, you've committed resources to us for floodplain mapping, and it's allowed us also to leverage some of those funds for federal disaster relief funds, and we were recently awarded $275,000 from the province to contribute to additional floodplain mapping and hydrology studies throughout the watershed as we continue to update our mapping. CBC's environmental education program targets a variety of youth, communities, and new Canadians, reaching approximately 34,000 participants annually. And I just wanted to make you aware of a couple of things that happened this year. We have a multicultural outreach program that received a grant from the Ontario Ministry of Citizen Immigration and International Trade. And with the support of that grant, we facilitated a health and wellness through outdoor recreation at Terracotta for 500 Peel ethnic seniors. Similarly, we partnered with the William Osler Health System to pilot a diabetes program for our clients visiting Terracotta Conservation Area. After an interpretive hike, the clients were able to learn about diabetes prevention, management, and the support that's available through Peel Region. And this was a pretty unique and special activity through us, so we were able to combine health education with experiential environmental education for the first time. 2016, our education program won an Award of Excellence in Environmental Education from the Canadian Network for Environmental Education and Communication, which recognizes CBC's significant contribution to environmental education and communication since we reestablished our program in 2007. Since that time, we have engaged almost 200,000 youth and adults in learning about climate change and the Credit watershed. Our volunteers are really important to the work we do, and they provide approximately 30,000 hours annually to a variety of projects we undertake. And I want to introduce you to this group, the Civic Muslims, who helped us plant some of the 2,800 trees that are replacing the 620 trees we had to remove this year in Rattray Marsh due to the emerald ash borer infestation. So we've removed over 2,000 trees there in the last 2 years, and we've replanted about 4,400 trees in their place. The experiences that our community volunteers have when they plant in their neighborhoods have an impact that's more than just the hours that they spend with us. These activities foster a sense of pride and ownership, sometimes one child and one resident at a time. And I want to introduce you to Kreshmer Jemelik from UPS. In 2011, he approached us looking for volunteer opportunities for UPS employees to engage in, ultimately looking for them to help reduce their carbon footprint. And at that time, they gave us $500 to put towards planting. A few months ago, we attended a celebration at their facility at Steeles and Jane, where they awarded us $130,000 to contribute to them offsetting their carbon impact. So that relationship has continued to grow, and they are a significant influence on other corporate groups to say, if we can do it, you can do it too. So with that, I'm going to turn to the budget. You've seen these slides when we were here in June, where we talk about how what we were able to accomplish in 15 and partially into 16. So what we've done here is we've taken the same slides and we've put what we intend to do for 17 in here. They're provided for each of the major funding buckets in the special levy, so watershed projects, climate change, and infrastructure. And I don't intend to provide any more commentary on them in the interest of time, and they're a little dry, but you can review them. We'll be happy to answer questions on them. So this one is for Peel climate change bucket, and this one for the infrastructure projects. So this slide outlines the current value assessment for 2017 by municipality that we use to generate our general levy. It reflects the updated impact current value assessment, and the region's apportionment is almost 92% of our assessment. So the net outcome is that you're $8,004,000 or a 4.31% increase over last year. Oops. So this figure shows how the 2017 budget is apportioned. And of note is that the provincial funding is about 1% of our budget on the operating side. We have received some other funds recently that will bump that up from the special projects side. User fees, we're doing a much better job on as well, developing our own revenues both in the parks and through planning fees. So here's the whole story for Peel for 2017. The general levy of 4.31%, special levy of 3.41% for a combined total increase of 3.73%, which is marginally above the target set by Peel of 3.3. That dollar difference is about $100,000. I would note that when we projected for 2017 last year, we were a little over 8%. So staff have worked really hard to bring this in line with your expectations. Below the line, we have a contribution for the special levy for Emerald Ash Borer management, and you will also see a $375,000 item for our Warwick office expansion project. I'll talk about that more in a moment. It was suggested when we met with senior staff a couple months ago that we actually carry that this way. So what's driving these changes to the general levy? Well, generally for us, it's staff costs. So we have 1.5% COLA built in. We have annualization, step increases, and we've had quite a few significant benefit increases, and they continue to rise. We're taking steps to try and mitigate that, but some of it's a little bit beyond our control. So we also continue to try and cut our expenses. So we have looked at our fleet and our facilities and our utilities to try and reduce those expenses. So you see the $60,000 credit on that front. The drivers of the special levy are also related to staffing costs, including some additional contract staff to help meet deliverable obligations and additional projects. And then we projected our future budget forecast increases. With the EAB funding, the total we're roughly between 3 to 5% for the next few years. So we have been very grateful for the leadership on funding the EAB work that the Peel has done and to deal with the other invasive species in our watershed. But tackling this means more staff and more resources to it. We have an office at our Warwick Nursery that is inadequate for the staff that are there. So as you are aware, we came here in June and asked you for providing a $375,000 contribution to this project to enable us to potentially leverage that against what we assumed was going to be some federal infrastructure funding coming down the pipe. We have not been able to date to identify any project that would, to fund this project that would meet the criteria. So at this point, we passed last week through our board a resolution asking Peel Council to consider just providing it to us, and we will make up the difference through carry forwards and reserves and provide that to get the funding all together to start the project. That way we would be able to deal with it keep going backwards, be able to deal with starting the construction in the spring and get the staff into proper offices come the end of the year. In CBC and TRCA, we're working with Peel staff to classify the various projects in our climate change budget and how they address climate risk. And together we developed this framework and have now shown here how our 2017 project list for the climate change account shapes up against the framework. So 23% of our projects are in the ACT category, which includes things like flood forecasting and warning and real-time gauges and restoration projects. 69% of our projects are in the invest category, and that includes things like tree planting, education, outreach, low-impact development, planning, and performance monitoring. And 8% of our projects are in the sustain category, and that includes things like wildlife assessments. So I'd be remiss if I didn't take a second to tell you about the underfunded projects or programs. And like you, we are facing growth pressures. We are seeing tremendous use of our facilities and demand for our programs and expansion of the type of programs like you saw when I mentioned about the William Osler project for diabetes and using our facilities. So we're seeing a tremendous demand that we're having a hard time keeping up with. I've talked to you many times about the Bell Fountain Dam and Head Pond, and I don't plan to tell you much more about it other than to say that we've assessed the project at being about $2.2 million to proceed with the renovations that are required both for safety and for tourism benefits. So we will need to find ways and means to fund that going forward. We also have the master plan for the Bell Fountain Conservation Area that where it is a tremendous tourism draw, and it can use both some safety and accessibility benefits, parking benefits, as well as looking forward to the future of what this place can be for the community. We estimate that's in the $5 to $6 million range to build and upgrade the site going forward. And a few months ago, we were here telling you about our Credit Valley Trail, that the project right now is funded by the Friends of the Greenbelt Foundation, but moving into 2018, it will become mainstream with CVC. We plan to be defining a route and to be able to undertake a tourism study. And when it's completed, we're going to need to be buying land and designing and implementing the trail itself. And our future forecast years, we have a few things that we know we need to work on. We approved the Upper Credit Management Plan a few months back. There are some trail upgrades, parking lot upgrades. We have no washrooms on site. We need to upgrade our bridges across the river so that we can get emergency vehicles over there if necessary. We also have land securement opportunities that we can't fully realize because we don't have 50% funding to draw on anymore from the province or other sources. So we constantly being asked by landowners if we will pick up their properties, and some of them we want desperately for various reasons, but we need to think about how we're going to do that going forward. And then, as others have mentioned as well, we need to leverage technology to make us more efficient. We need that for our HR, we need it for records management, we need it for our satellite offices that are facing challenges with offsite communications. So with that, CVC's had a very busy 2016. We're looking forward to our 2017 activities and working with you and your staff to continue to care for the credit. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. First on my list is the chair of the board of the Credit Valley Conservation, Councillor
I would
Yaneka.
expect no other.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It won't be a long speech, I promise, but it's just coming right down to an ask. But I must say, though, it's hard not to see all of that and be impressed and proud of the gang we have at the CVC. So that's the first message I want Deb and our board to take back, because to think of what we achieve with not many resources, I'm just so overwhelmingly proud, and I know I speak of the whole board. I'm so glad we follow Hassan's presentation, because he got me to thinking about something. I love how he used the phrase, our tax-supported budget versus our program budget. In all the years that I've been around, I understand budgets very well, and my normal budgets, like the presentation you just saw a moment ago, always deal with, here's your operating side and here's your capital side. We really don't have a capital side. We sort of call it a special levy, which is really a manage the crisis day-by-day fund. And the crisis that comes out of the sky, Mother Nature willing. One day it's the emerald ash borer, so how do you manage? So we come back cap in hand, can you help us with this? The next day it's an ice storm, it's, oh geez, okay, we understand. And then the next day it's climate change, flooding, water management, we get it. And then the next day the Bell Fountain embankment there falls in, and can you help us? It's a hell of a way to do business. But it is what it is, a debate for another day. Why it concerns me is, at our last budget meeting before we've come here cap in hand, we had quite a discussion about our fees. Actually, going back to what Hassan said as well, is the programs, where can we make a buck? We're certainly going to hit the developers more and more to get their paperwork through the system, and we've done that. But it was the subject of quite some debate where we've also said in the next 2 to 3 years, we will be raising what it costs to come visit our facilities by as much as 25%. So you know what that is? When Joni Mitchell said pave paradise and put up a parking lot, you shouldn't do that. We certainly aren't going to pave paradise and put up a parking lot, but pretty soon it's going to cost you downtown Toronto parking fees to come look at paradise. That's where we're headed with this. And I don't think that was the intention. So at the end of the day, when you consider we've just dealt with $2.2 billion, when all of our conservation authorities that you see listed here are in for $40 million of that, when what we get here is 8. That brings me on to a whole other harangue that I won't hit you with today. What I'm going to hit you with is the next piece of crisis management, which is what we've just described, the situation that we have at the Warwick Nursery, where you saw that hut that we call an office, that we said, how can you fund it? Well, why don't we go cap in hand to the federal government and see if we can get it through their program? Doesn't look like we are. We will cobble together our share of it from I don't know where. We'll keep borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. But it would really be wonderful if on the ask side, if as we approved by our board, that the $375,000 that was approved previously by this council under resolution for the Warwick nursery expansion that we now won't be getting from the federal government. We're hoping, and I'm referring this to our staff and to David, that we can have a relook here so that we can carry on with that. And I don't have staff working in huts anymore on an asset like so many others of ours that are investments. So here's the nursery where we grow our own stuff instead of paying so much more in the marketplace. So I hope that's a reasonable ask. I'd almost hope we have agreement in principle. I know we don't vote on the budget till the very end, but as an ask that we could ask this council that's been so good to us to step up where the federal government's let us down again, the $375 so that we, $75,000 so that we can carry on. So David, I refer that to you into the budget process, but I'm hopeful we're going to get a positive outcome there. I know we don't vote on them piece by piece, but really that's the big ask, other than to thank Deb and the whole crew for the marvelous job that you do and for the support you regularly give us around this table. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Nika, I know it was previously approved with it was that subject to the federal.
Exactly. And
I
that
think
didn't happen.
Would be appropriate because it is included in this budget, so we're not asking for more money. But if you put a motion forward to amend,
And that's
that
exactly,
motion,
and the wording that I will leave to however
Yeah.
the staff think it appropriate and come back in the appropriate form. I think you understand the ask and.
yeah, and it would be.
We need a two-thirds to amend it.
Yeah, and we'd need 2/3 of a vote to amend it, but that would be the appropriate way to get it.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm in your hands if you wish to do that. Now, I'm happy to bring it forward now.
Councillor Downey is pleased to second it, I believe.
Great. However mechanism is the appropriate, I think you understand the ask. I'm used in Mississauga that we don't do them bit by bit during the budget process. We wait till the final process. If you're willing to entertain the motion now, I'd be happy to make it.
But yeah, because it is an amendment. It's a motion that had already previously been approved, so.
So there's 19 present, so we need two.
Okay, let's deal with it now then.
Yeah, it's just to amend.
Yeah. So, yeah, the motion would be moved by Councillor Nika, seconded by Councillor Downey, that the resolution 2016-513 from the June 9th, 2016 Regional Council meeting be amended.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And we require 2/3 vote. So if you could kindly raise your hands in favor, please.
Yeah, to allow for it.
Opposed, if any?
I think you're okay.
Two-thirds carry.
I think you're okay.
Well, the amendment was, yeah, okay.
To reopen it, yeah.
And then he's going to put that on.
The motion itself for the 370.
Yeah, now the motion is moved by Councillor Nika, second by Councillor Downey, that the last clause of Resolution 2016-513 from the June 9th, 2016 Regional Council meeting be amended to read, therefore be it resolved that the Region of Peel supports the Credit Valley Conservation's application for funding for the Warwick Nursery Project in an amount up to $375,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And it was seconded by Councillor Downey. All in favor? Opposed, if any?
No,
Carried.
thank you very much.
That's carried.
Thank you all.
It's
Thank you all very, very much.
Councillor Raz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just to clarify, if anybody didn't get that, the region had approved that funds, but we're just going ahead in absence of our federal partner. Not so much of a partner in this one. So many other levels abdicating their responsibilities, but that's a conversation for another day. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming today, Deb and Jeff. You mentioned the volunteers, and they provided 30,000 hours of support to CVC, which is phenomenal. Can you monetize that amount? Do you know approximately what that means that we are actually saving to have to hire more people to do those jobs?
Yes, we usually considered it about 17 full-time equivalents and roughly $400,000 worth of labor that we wouldn't have paid for it all, but we would have paid for a significant portion of it to do the work we would like to do.
And certainly the experience that the volunteers get and the affinity they build for the conservation areas is priceless.
Yes.
Too bad you didn't bring the example of the whiskey flood monitoring system. I don't know if one of the other pictures, but when we looked at it last week for Cooksville Creek, it was amazing to see the detail, and it took quite
quite a long time to collect all of the data that went into it. And maybe you can bring it back at a future meeting, but it was truly amazing to look at where the potential floodplain mapping system was and all the development that is currently existing on those overlays, I guess you could call them. So going forward, we need to work with the region and the municipalities. So when we do approve developments, that those are certainly taken into consideration. So I just want to say thank you very much. I know that you did originally come in at a much higher rate, and you did sharpen your pencils. That is appreciated. But again, I don't know if you want to just touch very quickly on what the province used to fund, and although they continue to increase the demands on the conservation authorities, they continually step away from providing that support.
So the Credit Valley gets, for our operating budget, so in our general levy, gets $185,000 a year from the province in support of mostly our hazard function. We have, every year we provide the province with an estimation of what our full expenditures are on the eligible activities, and that's roughly between $2 and $3 million. So just a pittance towards the program that we really need to run. They used to provide 50% of the funding, and in the 90s that was removed. So obviously, we've all talked about the Conservation Authorities Act review that's ongoing right now. Funding has come through as a very significant comment from every organization that made comments on the Act. Whether the province will acknowledge that and step back into the foray with more money, that there's conversations around it, but whether they'll actually do it is we're waiting with bated breath. So
yeah, don't hold your breath. You're
Yeah.
going to turn blue.
I shouldn't hold it too long. Yes.
Thank you very much for coming
Thanks.
today. Appreciate it.
And Councillor Rez, would you move receipt of the deputation then? Seconded by Councillor Starr. All in favor? Thanks very much for your presentation. Moves us to the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, presentation by Brian Denny, Chief Executive Officer, TRCA. Oops, not Brian.
Good morning, Chair Dale and members of the council. I'm going to be making the presentation. You all know me. Rocco Scrambaroli, our Chief Financial Officer, is here. Brian Denny is here. He's in support. He's sitting back there for all the questions. And we also have our staff team here. Thank you for the opportunity to present our 2016 progress and 2017 budget priorities. So by way of context, here is a map of TRCA jurisdiction within the region of Peel with the 3 watersheds and green space. I'm going to now give you a brief highlight of some of the 2016 progress we've made so far. As you know, our budget is divided into 3 categories: watershed, infrastructure, and climate change. The watershed component of our budget has priorities such as flood management capacity, erosion control, watershed planning, data, and tools. As you will recall, that the last update to our watershed plans was done in conjunction with the Oak Ridges Moraine Plan, and the current Provincial 4-Plan review is making a strong emphasis on watershed planning and climate change. In light of that, earlier this year, we have initiated a project to look at the next generation of watershed plans to support the need of our municipalities as they, with their growth and intensification plans. We're looking proactively to current watershed approaches and global best practices to make sure that our strategic management directions are current and relevant with a broad range of municipal, provincial, and TRCA objectives. On the restoration side, we've completed 45 restoration projects with approximately 12.5 hectares of upland restoration and 2,000 meters of riparian restorations. The sites are presented in the map on the right-hand side. Climate change component of our budget, deals with both adaptation and mitigation priorities, and we try our best to align those with the Region of Peel climate change strategy and priority, working closely with Peel staff. The couple of projects in there are related to erosion and flood management. The modeling visualization on the right side of this slide is Bramalea Center, or Zone 7 of Spring Creek Flood Characterization Study, which has been identified as a high-risk area. We are looking at flood remediation alternatives, working closely with Region of Peel staff. And the slides above on this one is showing existing conditions and a scenario run if bridges were upsized, resulting in significantly reduced inundation areas during a regional event. We have used two-dimensional hydrologic modeling and LiDAR technology to improve the resolution of our modeling exercise for these type of projects. And I understand, working with Credit Valley Conservation Authority and Region of Peel, we now have obtained LiDAR data for the whole Region of Peel jurisdiction. On the left side is our erosion management program priorities. As you are aware, our priorities are focused around protecting Region of Peel sanitary infrastructure. And with these 6 projects that are highlighted on the list here, between 2016 and 2017, we would have covered almost 300 meters of sanitary pipe for Region of Peel. The first 3 projects are scheduled to be completed this year, and the next 3 are for 2017. Partners in Project Green continues to do a good job. We are actually working with the Greater Toronto Airports Authority to install 32 electric vehicle charging stations in the airport area. And this is all happening with support from Ministry of Transportation funding. I also understand that staff are assisting Region of Peel with the installation of 6 electric vehicle stations at various Peel facilities, so that's a great news story. Our Sustainable Neighborhood Retrofit Action Program, I'm really pleased to report it's a good news story that we were the finalist for the Global C40 City Awards. Whether we win or not, the finalist will be announced on December 1st. We have amazing 3 SNAP program going on along the town of Caledon, city of Mississauga, and Brampton. Infrastructure portion of our budget is focused around improved customer experience within the Region of Peel. This is a good news story. Although Region of Peel dollars were not used directly for this, they were leveraged for restoration opportunities. But here is an example where we've helped Brampton and Caledon obtain Ministry of Transportation money to complete 1,500 meter of multi-use granular surface trail link between Brampton and Caledon. And some of you were there for the opening event. Thank you for coming out. I have some nice pictures to send you. I couldn't include them in this presentation, so thank you for all your support there. Our park attendance is looking really good. These numbers are from October, 393,884, and we are hoping that by the end of this year we will surpass our last year numbers, so it will be bigger than last year. So that's a good news story. In terms of 2017 budget priorities, again, within the 3 categories, you will notice that we have approximately 84 programs or projects planned for 2017 under the watershed climate change and infrastructure category. Like Deb mentioned, our big success story earlier this year and last year was development of climate risk methodology. And we have screened our 2017 projects against this methodology, and it reveals a very balanced distribution of funds within the climate funding category. You'll notice that almost 60% investment is in programs that address long-term climate risks and vulnerabilities, and 35% in projects that address immediate threats. And the rest is in the sustained category. Working closely with Region of Peel staff, our team has identified a couple of projects that we can support in 2017 to advance climate change planning within the Region of Peel. Green infrastructure framework is being developed to support implementation of green infrastructure projects. It will provide us a better understanding of various forms of GI and their combined effects on ecosystem functions and services. Similarly, the integrated water resource management analysis is an effort to model a whole variety of water management activities, green infrastructure, low-impact development, within a sub-watershed to inform performance and reduction of vulnerabilities to climate change and extreme weather. The stormwater infrastructure design is to kind of develop a common understanding of how you address extremes and uncertainties from extreme weather in the design of stormwater infrastructure. And we are also working on key performance indicators to evaluate our success and measure resiliency within the Region of Peel. For 2017, we have 47 restoration projects planned within the 4 categories of wetland, riparian, stream, and green infrastructure. As mentioned before, we have multiple flood remediation studies currently underway. They started in 2015, and they'll be ongoing to 2018. Basically, all these studies are focused around identifying the needs for where and what kind of actions are required to reduce vulnerability and risk to flooding under a changing climate. The list is provided on the slide and associated map. I did speak to the Spring Creek project, Zone 7. Bolton berm remediation studies within the Bolton SPA to look at the existing infrastructure, and the list goes on. We're working closely with the City of Brampton staff and City of Mississauga staff to look at combined urban and riverine flooding models to get to the bottom of our flooding issues within these municipalities. As of this year, we have also initiated an asset management program for TRCA. The focus is on prioritization of infrastructure needs and long-term sustainability and life cycle issues of our assets and services. We are hoping that this plan, when completed, will allow us to better integrate our asset management and planning with the Region of Peel capital planning priorities. The Albion Hills Master Plan is a 10-year plan with a strong vision for the revitalization and optimization of Ontario's first conservation area, which happens to be in the Region of Peel. And the plan addresses evolving recreation needs for our communities, and we are hoping that it will be a regional tourism draw once completed. In 2017, our priorities will be on state of good repair primarily. TRCA and Region of Peel staff continue to move this project forward on a variety of levels, so that's on track. Emerald Ash Borer update. This program is on track with the removal of trees at 4 conservation areas in 2017 and treatment of 51 trees at Indian Line Campground. The program is scheduled to be completed in 2018, and the tree injections will continue beyond that. I will now speak to our 2017 numbers. As you can see from this slide, the current value assessment portion of Peel is close to 13% for the region. It's gone up a little bit at 3.3%. The number, as Deb said, are provided by MNR and adjusted by TRCA. Other portions for other municipalities are also highlighted on this slide. Our net operating budget is sitting at $43,389 million. Peel portion of that is approximately 5%. In terms of our targets, both for general and special levy, our general levy is sitting at 3.3%, and special levy is minus 2.5%, and I'll speak to that. You asked that question. Mostly, in terms of our general levy budget, our pressures are related to COLA, cost of living, and it's $57,000 increase there. So in terms of special levy, this is where that minus 2.9% comes in. There's a variety of factors that are resulting in that reduction. First of all, the Bolton Camp funding, that was a special funding for 2 years, ended in 2016. That was close to $1 million for 2016, so that's that difference. Beyond that, we have made some internal adjustments in our budget. We've looked at efficiencies where we can. We've looked at some efficiencies within the operating budget that have made some room to allocate some of the funding from capital to operating the functions like flood forecasting and warning, so that they have moved to our operating budget. So those are the differences that you see on that list. And Heart Lake implementation program ended this year, so that's another small amount there. We did not want to continue that because we are working on an asset management plan, and we're hoping that will give us a better idea of what our infrastructure needs are, and we can come back to you with a very comprehensive asset management program. Finally, our forecast for the next 4 years is consistent with our 10-year forecast. We religiously followed your target of 3.3% over the last 4 years. This year, we've gone down. We're hoping you can give us a credit for that good work next year, in coming years. So that's our 4-year forecast. And most of the pressures that you see on that forecasted list relate to okay, that's okay. I can go back. Sorry, yes, thank you. Okay, so it looks like we added the slide after we sent the presentation to you. I was just trying to say there's four big priorities that relate to that increase in the numbers. Climate change is one, asset management plan is one, implementation of flood remediation actions that I spoke about is another one, and green space management within the region of Peel. As you know, we continue to acquire more land, and maintenance and management of that land adds additional cost to our work. This is the end of my presentation, and we can take any questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Chair Dale. Thank you, Chandra, for your presentation. Just one quick question, and I'm just trying to find the slide. It's the Bolton Sanitary Encasement project that you're doing. Could you just tell me a little bit more about it and where you're looking at with respect to that?
Oh, the Bolton, the flood management, the
Yeah.
berm project?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the map on here, but can't find it.
So the Bolton
There
berm
is something.
remediation study?
No, no, it's before that, sorry.
Or the Bolton camp?
No, no, it's Bolton.
Doing a lot of things in Bolton. The rich get richer.
Yeah, well,
Oh, I think you are referring to the erosion control project?
that's it, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. There it is, the Exposed Sanitary Encasement Protection
Yes.
Program.
So we have a erosion monitoring program, and on an ongoing basis, what we do is we keep an eye on our valleys and rivers and where municipal sanitary infrastructure is. We document those sites effectively and monitor them over the course of years to see what the erosion rate is. And at the end of the year, the rate of the erosion and risk to municipal infrastructure really determines what our priorities will be for the coming years. So based on that comprehensive database that we have in the region of Peel, we set those priorities, and those are the 3 projects we're working on. They'll be completed this year. What I can do is I'll send you more information on that specific project.
That would be great. And there's another project that you're working on, a storm pond. And can you tell me anything about it? It's the a hybrid pond that you're looking at doing in partnership with Caledon. Do you know anything about that?
I will have to get back to staff and send you more information. I'm aware of the project.
Okay.
I will send you more information at a later date. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for all the good work that you're doing for us.
Thank you. Councillor Toby.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to make a sort of a comment in general about all our conservation authorities. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. I know that for the 6 years I've been here, the conversation has certainly changed a lot. I mean, changed with climate change and flood mitigation. And I remember after the flood in 2013, and we were all saying, well, the conservation authorities, they're going to lead the way because they have the expertise and the knowledge. And every year that I look at your budget, I can see that you are doing that. You're all leading, you're all taking charge, and you're really doing some absolutely amazing work on flooding and climate change mitigation. I just want you to know that we really appreciate that, and I'd just like to thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. Councillor Groves, if you've moved the seat of the deputation, seconded by Councillor Tovey. All in favor then? Carried. Thanks very much. I have a motion then moved by Councillor Parrish, seconded by Councillor Carlson, that the report of the Commissioner of Finance and Chief Financial Officer titled 2017 Operating and Capital Budget be deferred to the December 1st, 2016 Regional Council budget meeting. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. I have a second motion moved by Councillor Kovacs, seconded by Councillor Sprovieri, that bylaw 59-2016 to confirm the proceedings of Regional Council at its budget meeting held on November 24, 2016 to deliberate the 2017 budget and to authorize the execution of documents in accordance with the region's bylaws relating thereto, be given the required number of readings, taken as read, signed by the regional chair and the regional clerk, and the corporate seal be affixed thereto. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Motion moved by Councillor Mahoney, seconded by Councillor Shaughnessy, that the November 24th, 2016 Regional Council budget meeting be adjourned. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
See you next week. On the first.
Yeah, see you on the 1st, next Thursday.
1st of December already.
Yeah, I know.
This is Brampton City Matters, your weekly recap of news and events. Looking for drop-in programs in the city of Brampton? Use the city's new online search filter to find programs that interest your family. Search by keyword or select categories like fitness, skating, sports, or swimming activities. You can refine your search by age range, location, and start time to help you find programs quickly and easily. Join the City of Brampton's Food and Toy Drive and help brighten a family's holiday. Drop off your non-perishable food donations or new unwrapped toys at City Hall or at any Brampton Community Center, library, or fire station between November 18th and December 16th. All donations will support Brampton's food sharing network and Toys for Tots. For more information, visit www.brampton.ca.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Welcome back. We definitely had a great show today, and Serbi, I must know, what was your favorite part?
I just love the wealth of knowledge we'll be taking home in terms of how to fight the flu season. I think that was my absolute favorite part.
And I definitely love talking both to actor Vinay Vermani and also talking about different types of lingerie for skin color, because as women of color, we need different colors to match our skin tone. So that was great. And so thank you to all of our guests for coming on today, and also to our viewers. Please be sure to enter our Kitty Party contest. It's very simple. All you have to do is send a picture of you and your friends having your own kitty party at home, and you might just win a chance to host your very own kitty party at a restaurant. So send us a picture at Kitty Talk TV or hashtag Kitty Talk TV on Facebook or Twitter. That's pretty much our show for today. So see you next week, and we're going to leave you with a lovely performance by Sampradaya Dance Company.
Host hair and makeup provided by Beauty Concept by Shirley Wu. Host clothing provided by Melanie Lynn.